was ready to fist fight.
Right. Good morning and welcome. We are at Parshat Toldot on page 146.
I thought we did this last week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you had us on the other one?
So,
146 Toldot. We're moving along. Last week with Chaye Sarah was the death of Sarah, the finding a wife for Isaac and Rebecca, and then at the end the death of Abraham as well. So here we have now introduction to the story of Isaac and his generations. David, you want to read us?
this is the story of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took to wife Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean of Padan Aram, sister of Laban and Aramean. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren. The Lord responded to his plea, and his wife Rebekah conceived. But the children struggled in her womb, and she said, If so, why do I exist? She went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord answered her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 separate people shall issue from your body. 1 people shall be mightier than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. When her time to give birth was at hand, there were twins in her womb. The first one emerged red like a hairy mantle all over, and they named him Esau. Then his brother emerged, holding on to the heel of Esau, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born.
Okay, so here we have the birth of Jacob and Esau. First, we go through several stages. 1, Rebecca is barren, unable to conceive. Then Isaac pleads on her behalf, and she does conceive. God responds, and she conceives. She's pregnant and has the twins inside of her, struggling. We're going to look at some texts around that in just a minute. And she laments about it. If so, why do I exist? Right? See, is there any? There's nothing down below about that. Basically, it's sort of like, okay, I got what I wanted, but why this, right? First I was barren and I couldn't have children, and now that I'm having children, it's a struggle and it's a pain. And God replies to her about these 2 different peoples that are going to come from her, one mightier than the other, the older serving the younger. And again, we're going to look at some things with that. And of course, then Esau comes first, and Jacob second. So on the handout, George, text 1 from Sefer Hasidim, talking about the 2 children struggling in her womb.
Lest Jacob learn from Esau, God placed enmity in their hearts even before they were born, and the divide between them started at that time.
Okay, so here we're getting from Hasidim, from the Sefer Hasidim, that the divide between them that's going to last a lifetime, pretty much a lifetime, right? They do reunite near the end. Is something that starts off early on, and we see right from here, and we're going to see some other places as well, where God doesn't want Jacob learning from Esau. And this is sort of a struggle that a lot of people have of this, the way the rabbis see Jacob and Esau. Jacob is sort of like all good, infallible, right? A goody-goody. And Esau, this horrible hoodlum, always causing troubles. And even till the end where the rabbis see Rome as the descendants of Esau. and Rome, we know, ends up coming and destroying the Second Temple, and so it's very early on set. The rabbis sort of set it very early on. Hello there. Here's this, and you grab a chumash over the table. And so sort of set it up early on that Esau is this bad guy. But I think that what we're going to see from some of these texts is that it's less Esau being a bad guy than sort of this sort of struggle between good and bad, and not necessarily people, an individual who embodies it. We're on page 146. So sometimes we want to try and step back and from these rabbinic texts and just be like, okay, we're not talking about a specific person. We're talking more about characteristics, right? So we could say that that early on, right, there is enmity between people, right? Why? So that the good, right, not necessarily Jacob, right, but the good doesn't learn from the bad, right? And we're going to see that come through again later on. George, go ahead with text 2 as well on the handout.
Okay, the second, yeah. And they were called boys, even though they were not yet born.
Okay, so if you look at the text, it says, right, in verse 22, V'yit rotsatsu habanim, right, and the two, here in the English it says 2 children, but the 2 boys struggled inside of her, right? So the question is, why are they calling them boys, banim, right? In Hebrew, the plural could easily be translated as just children, right? Not knowing the gender of it, but having a sense that they, I don't know how they knew. They I don't know their science necessarily from back then, but they probably were able to tell that there were twins, and so they would call them children. But this text is picking up on it saying boys, even though they wouldn't have known that they were boys yet. They certainly didn't have that kind of technology.
Yeah, okay. The Lord knows.
The Lord knows,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But this is the narrator, right? This is the children struggled in her womb. It's not, this isn't God saying the 2 sons that are inside of you are going to, right? It's just, now it's just,
she asked that about
she does, right?
Yeah.
But up at this point, all we know is that there's twins. We don't know the gender. But yet the text can be read as seeing boys. So why call them boys from the beginning? Go ahead.
Let's see.
And therefore,
And therefore, it says in Job, and leave them naked, stripped of their clothes.
so it's going to come up here, and I'm not sure. There might be a couple of connecting words that I didn't quite get in translating this. But basically, you're going to come up with a few places where we call something one thing, even though it's not quite there yet, right? So, like here with Job, this is like speaking about people after their death, right? Them naked and stripped of their clothes, even though at that point, right, before they died, they still have all their clothes. This next one I really don't get, and here's the saying, the day of Shlomo. So skip that. Go ahead, brings the proof.
Brings the proof that a fetus is called a son. And it's a wonder, after all, that an explicit saying is son and not a fetus.
Right, because it could have said, there's words in Hebrew for the 2 fetuses struggled inside of her, right? And it could have said that. Instead, it says banim. So even if now rethinking about it, it just says banim, and we think of banim as children. The tension between calling it a child before it's born, right? And we still have this struggle today, right? As certainly within the discussion around abortion, right? Do you call the thing, right, when it's inside the mother, is it called a child, or is it called the fetus, right? And we still have that that tension within our language as well.
But
So,
the author obviously knows what the sex is.
well, after the fact,
Right.
certainly, right?
Right.
When you then read back into it, right?
So
You
the-
can
it's
do
like
it.
a bias
But
of
so
the
the rabbis, in some ways, I mean, you know, they want to try and ask the questions based on, you know, because they certainly know as well, right? They're coming generations later, but they want to come with a bit of an ignorance of it, so that you can dig deeper into it.
What's the reference to the day of Shlomo?
I really don't know. It's the Hebrew there. I wasn't able to really understand that one, and this is a great exercise for me to try and be translating some selections to be able to bring